Good morning, Tampa Bay. What is going on? Channelside in the morning, live on the Channelside Sports Network. Oh, man. Before we jump into the show today, obviously, terrible news coming out of Bucs training camp yesterday. Nothing is confirmed. However, the worst is kind of expected, which really stinks. When you break it down, it really does stink. But thank you guys for tuning in this morning. I appreciate everybody always, as usual, that hops on and enjoys their morning with us here at Channelside Sports. Here's what we've got on the menu and on tap for today. Of course, we're going to talk about Ryan Jensen's injury. We're going to talk about replacement options for him if he does, in fact, miss the entire season. And if we're being totally honest, it's not, I don't want to say it's the end of, I don't want to downplay this, right? But there are available options. We'll also look at Robert Hainsey as a possible replacement, who is the only true backup center on this Buccaneers roster currently. There's a lot of information to talk about when it comes to who could play center and who can't play center. Of course, it is Hot Take Friday, baby. I'm going to give you 3 hot takes as we head into the NFL season. Hot takes are not fact. We gotta stop this fallacy of, I can't believe you'd say that. That's what a hot take is, folks. A hot take is not saying Mike Evans is going to get 1,000 receiving yards. Why would that be a hot take? That is a fact. That's exactly what we can grow to expect from Mike Evans. I am also going to tell Rays Nation, I know we lost again. Don't panic. Just don't panic. Do not panic. The season's going to be okay, and I'm going to tell you why the season is going to be okay. Did Kevin Cash lose a team? I'm going to tell you why it doesn't matter if he's lost the team currently. Trade deadlines coming. Are we going to do anything? I feel like we need to get that meme for Stu that says, come on, do something. I definitely feel like we need that. And then the Magic. We got to talk about the Magic, right? Big news for Paulo Banchero. Details are not actually confirmed yet. However, he is going to be joining the Jordan brand, which is insane when we go through the list of athletes that are on the Jordan brand currently. And Terrence Ross says that the Magic can make the effing playoffs. Can they? Realistically? We're going to talk about it. Thank you for tuning in, everybody that's joining us across the platform. I'm going to let you know, as I have been every morning for this last week, starting August 1st, we are exclusively going to be broadcasting on YouTube and Twitter. So make sure, if you're on YouTube, you're smashing the subscribe button. Hopefully you're enjoying the shows. Hopefully you're enjoying the content that we are giving you. And look, this is something that we all enjoy doing every day. This is something that I enjoy doing every day. Hop in the chat, chop it up, not only with me, not only with the other co-hosts, but with the other fans. This is what we do. This is what sports media and sports networking is all about. But nonetheless, we're going to jump into it right now, and we're going to talk about, unfortunately, Ryan Jensen carted off with an apparent knee injury. They are fearing it is a torn ACL. They said we don't have the facts. We don't have the full-blown statistics just yet. But it's looking like it's going to be an ACL. Hopefully it's not a full tear, because that means for sure the entire season is out. But we're not sure. An MRI is scheduled today for noon. And obviously we will find out more details about it afterwards. And it's hard. Ryan Jensen has been basically the only center for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers since coming to the Tampa Bay Bucs from Baltimore. And there's not really anybody else on the roster that can play center. Robert Hainsey played last year, second-year player out of Notre Dame. He was taken in the third round by the Buccaneers. He only played 31 snaps last season, though. He played in 4 games and collectively played 31 snaps. Per Pro Football Focus, he earned a 78.2 pass blocking grade, which is actually pretty good, especially for he was a rookie, especially for being a rookie and stepping into a role later in the season. When Ryan Jensen when he got banged up, but that's not a bad grade at all, and especially for this Buccaneers team, because that the Buccaneers team is going to be their offense is going to be pass heavy. Tom Brady likes to pass the ball. He led the league in passing attempts last season, and we know that the Buccaneers are going to pass the ball. Right? That's what we know from this team. Yes, we've got Leonard Fournette. Yes, we've got Rachaad White. If we go fourth on the depth chart currently, we've got Giovanni Bernard in 4, and then Keyshawn Vaughn in the third slot currently on the depth chart. Obviously, training camp is going to dictate, the placement of these players. We can only assume that Fournette is going to fall first, and then Rachaad White would be second. However, a 78.2 pass block, that's not a bad grade to receive for a rookie. Run blocking was a 63.3. Obviously, that's a little lower than we would like, especially in terms of a replacement for Ryan Jensen. However, here's an interesting take, if you will, is I've been seeing a lot of people saying, okay, well, let's just shift over let's shift over someone else. Let's shift over Shaq Mason. First of all, I don't know where this fallacy of, we can just shift over offensive linemen into other positions. I'm not sure exactly where that's come from, but it's not right and it's incorrect. Sure, we've done it with Ali Marpet and we've done it with AQ Shipley, but those were the last players to actually play in the center position outside of Ryan Jensen, who is a true center. Shipley's not. Neither was Marpet. Robert Hainsey, he is a true center, and he's the only true center that has played any snaps at center for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Shaq Mason came into the league in 2015, and he's played exactly 0 snaps at center for his entire career. So we can't say that Shaq Mason can fill in at center. He's never played center. You're expecting a man to come over and play center that has never been in that position before. Sure, he might understand what that position entails, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be effective at all. How many times have we seen teams get hit and be injury plagued? Right? How many times have we seen that? Teams will become injury plagued and they've got to plug and play somebody at center, and then turnover city starts happening. Snaps come too early. When the quarterback's not ready, you get a wild snap, fumble, turnover. Defense is back on the field. We see that all too often. So it's not just as easy as saying, well, you know what? This isn't Madden. And that's really what it breaks down to, is this is not Madden. You need to understand. You need to understand where players' value is. Shaq Mason's value is not at center. Luka Decky, possibly at center, just due to the fact that Luka Decky has not played a single snap as a professional football player. Possibly. Aaron Stinney, sure, Aaron Stinney's been here for a while, but Aaron Stinney too has also played 0 snaps at center for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So if Ryan Jensen is out, the only option that the Buccaneers could possibly feel comfortable with at center is going to be Robert Hainsey. How comfortable at center are they going to be, you ask? That's completely up for debate. And the reason why is because there's just not a big enough sample size. JC Tretter's name. Of course, JC Tretter was the center for Cleveland, who was by far the best run blocking and pass blocking offense in the NFL last season. This is part of the reason why Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt and Dearness Johnson looked so damn good coming out of the backfield. A lot of it is talent, yes, but also a lot of the reason why is because that offensive line was impenetrable. You could not get to the quarterback. Here's a stat for you. JC Tretter last season earned a 99.0 efficiency rating. Now, what is the efficiency rating based upon, you ask? The efficiency rating is based on the amount of sacks, hits, and hurries that were allowed at the position. Through all of last season, JC Tretter allowed 1 sack, 1 hit, and just 8 hurries on Baker Mayfield last season. That's pretty. If we're gonna be honest here, that is pretty damn good. If we want to talk about the efficiency rating for, and here's your comparison, right? Ryan Jensen last season had a 98.2 efficiency rating. He allowed 4 sacks, 5 hits, and 18 hurries. All of those are up. Now, am I saying that JC Tretter is going to be an upgrade over Ryan Jensen? I'm not going to say that because I don't want to. We don't know exactly how JC Tretter would fit in on this offense because it is a different play style. The Buccaneers play vastly different than the Cleveland Browns did. The amount of talent around the center position, I think, overall could be better than Cleveland, but Cleveland just formulated and functioned as a very solid unit. So that's something that you have to think about. In 1,039 snaps last season, JC Tretter earned an 83.7 pass block grade and a 74.8 pass block grade. That's a huge uptick in stock over Robert Hainsey. It's a possibility that the free agent who was cut by Cleveland could already be on his way to Tampa Bay should they fear the worst. And look, if we're being honest here, even if they are fearing the worst, here's one thing that we have to consider. Let's say that it's a really bad sprain or it's a minor tear that would require a surgery and then Jensen is out for half of the season. Even at that, you still have such a crazy upgrade in signing JC Tretter over Robert Hainsey that $8 million, give or take, that you have available in cap space after signing Julio Jones, that seems like that's a pretty good position and pretty good player to throw that money at. It never hurts to have depth. And that's the one glaring issue for this Buccaneers team is that the offensive line depth, it's not really there. Outside of possibly having Aaron Stinney and Luke Gadecki up each other's game, there's really not anything to write home about in terms of if an offensive lineman goes down and gets injured. The Buccaneers are very good at playing next man up and kind of camouflaging other team or other players' deficiencies and the opportunities for improvement. But there is definitely an upgrade in JC Tretter and adding that depth behind Ryan Jensen. Unless you are totally sold on Robert Hainsey at the backup center. And maybe they could be. You know, we're 2 days into training camp. Maybe Robert Hainsey gets a little shine today because he's going to be taking first team practice reps. So maybe during this session he looks really damn good. And then we're okay. And then there's no issue. Now we're smooth sailing. Now we've got Robert Hainsey. He's able to fill in. But here's another hypothetical. What happens if Robert Hainsey gets rolled up on? Right? How many times do we see this happen with centers? Or not even just centers, offensive linemen in general. They're going to run the ball up the middle. Players are battling in the trenches. All of a sudden, you get rolled up on. And now we're talking about the possibility of having Ryan Jensen out for the season, and now Robert Hainsey, who is his backup, possibly out. So if you sign somebody like a JC Tretter, the only thing that you're going to possibly run into as an issue is that JC Tretter was on the books for $9 million in Cleveland, and the Bucs have right around $8 million in cap space. That's the only issue that you could possibly run into, is that you just can't get JC Tretter to commit to a lower salary base. And that might be the issue. Now, here's the thing though, is guys, if we're talking about the possibility of winning a Super Bowl and I'm JC Tretter, sign me the hell up, man. Sign me right up. I'm all on board for a Super Bowl. If I'm JC Tretter, let's go. Let's do it. I think that's the biggest take home for me, is that we don't have enough depth. You've got Robert Hainsey, unproven, 31 snaps as a pro. Could he pan out and be great? He could pan out and be great. We don't know that. Could all be well for Ryan Jensen. I mean, they're fearing it's an ACL injury, but we don't know for a fact if it's a torn ACL or not, and we won't know until later this afternoon. We can hear the rumors. We can read the clickbait. We can look at the people mistake their opinion as a fact, but we don't know the actual fact of where Ryan Jensen's knee injury actually is. And that's the big thing, is we don't know where it's at. He's likely going to miss a little bit of time. Knee injuries are tricky. Knee injuries are just like hamstring injuries. You don't want to push them. Look at what happened with Julio Jones in Tennessee. You don't want to push them. Get JC Tretter down in Tampa Bay. At the absolute worst, now you've got a solid backup to Ryan Jensen. Now you've got a backup, and maybe he doesn't want to be a backup. Sign him to a 1-year deal. If you say, dude, look at our roster. If you're calling up JC Tretter's agent and saying, hi, yeah, we're the Bucs and we want to sign JC Tretter. We're going to offer him $5 million for the 1-year deal. Come in. We're going to rent you for a season. Ryan Jensen got injured. We're going to rent you. You're going to be our starting center. And we're second favorited to win the Super Bowl. The only other team that is favorited above us to win the Super Bowl is an AFC team. So your chances of playing in your very first Super Bowl in your NFL career are pretty goddamn high. Let your client know this. We are interested. Does he want to block for the greatest quarterback of all time? Does he want to snap the ball to the greatest quarterback of all time? I'm willing to bet the answer is yes. We got the details on Julio Jones' contract. He's only going to hit for just over $2 million on the cap. This was such a smart signing, and especially for where we currently are right now. This is a very, very smart signing for the Buccaneers. I'm not a big fan of adding voided years. You know, we know the Godfather Greg Allman from The Athletic talks about void years all the time. And as a salary cap guy myself, I'm not a fan of adding void years, but I mean, it is what it is. Now that Julio is only on the books for just over $2 million, the Buccaneers have, like I said, about $8 million in cap space. You could realistically rent a JC Tretter, who is a free agent, who's sitting on the couch right now. You could rent him out and you could tell, let's go. You want to compete for a Super Bowl or do you not want to compete for a Super Bowl? That's exactly where I'm at currently. Is do you want to compete for a Super Bowl or not? You have to look at the bigger picture. Do you want to hold off for more money and possibly play for the Washington Commanders? Doubtful. Do you want to hold off and do you want to play for another team that's not a contender like the Buccaneers are? No, you want to play for the Buccaneers. JC Tretter, I know you're not watching this, but in the small chance that you do see a clip that I'm going to post later on today, if your agent's calling and he says Tampa Bay is knocking, God damn it, man. Pick up the phone, make it happen, and come down to Tampa Bay, solidify that center position. That's realistically all you've got to do is just solidify the center position. And just, oh, yeah, it's sorry, we're having I'm trying to respond to some comments through text here as well because I'm getting text comments on the Channelside Sports text line here, which also shoot me a text here. It's 813-359-1116. Shoot me a text. Let me know your thoughts as well. We've got so many ways for you to communicate with us and us to communicate back with you. It's just it's for me, it's very also, and I just got a comment here on Twitter as well. Ali Marpet is reportedly not at football weight, so signing him is kind of unreasonable and not a feasible thing right now. Is there a possibility that they could sign him? Well, like nobody's sitting here tracking Ali Marpet with a Fitbit, right? We don't know exactly where he's at, but if he's reportedly not at football weight, move on, let him enjoy his retirement and call it a day. That's realistically where we stand right now. It's not a good situation. And Corey Hayes, one of our co-hosts of False Finish, who's also a huge Buccaneers fan, super knowledgeable. He's been sending a bunch of tweets to me of players cheering in, not players, of fans and people on Twitter are cheering injuries. Like, grow up, people. It doesn't matter what team you're a fan of. If you're cheering an injury, you are a literal piece of trash. Literal piece of trash. Not figurative, but you are literally trash if you're cheering injuries. I don't care. Look, Jameis Winston blew out his knee last season. Nobody was cheering in Bucs Nation. And if anybody was cheering in Bucs Nation, you too are a literal piece of trash. You do not cheer for injuries. That's not what you do. Evan's going to be joining us here in just a few moments. But before we do that, before he jumps on, we've got our hot takes, but I want to hear Evan's hot takes. I want to debate these hot takes. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to jump forward because I know he's not a big basketball guy. We're going to talk about Terrence Ross. Terrence Ross on his podcast said we can go to the effing playoffs this year. Oh, really, Terrence Ross? Can we go to the playoffs this year? What? Can we? Not very likely. But here's where the numbers line up, and here's your realistic view on the Orlando Magic making the playoffs or even making the play-in game this season. Last year, the Atlanta Hawks were the 8th team. They won the play-in game. The Atlanta Hawks record was 43-39. Last season, the Orlando Magic won 22 games. we know that they're going to be better this season. All of the expectations that the Orlando Magic are going to be better are accurate, right? We know that the Magic are going to be better. We know that Paulo Banchero is going to be a superstar in this league. Maybe not necessarily his rookie year, but we saw enough of his sample size that Paulo Banchero has the opportunity to become and evolve into a superstar in the NBA, especially in his situation here in Orlando. But to expect the Orlando Magic to more than double their win total last season, if we're going off the analytics from last season, to more than double and make just the play-in game, that's a very tall order. That's a very tough task for the Orlando Magic to go from 22 wins to needing at least 43 wins, because the East is not the cakewalk that it used to be. It's not. You're looking at teams. Look, I touched on this yesterday. If you go on the FanDuel Sportsbook website or the app, or however you go to FanDuel, go to the NBA prop bets and look at the odds to make the playoffs. The Orlando Magic are currently plus 1,800 to make the NBA playoffs this coming season. What exactly does that mean, you ask? If you're plus 1,800 and you drop $100 on the Orlando Magic to make the playoffs, you're going to win $1,800. Now that sounds all well and good to me, but when you look at the fact of the Atlanta Hawks were the final team to make the playoffs and they won 43 versus the Magic winning 22, how much better can the Orlando Magic get in one season? Like, is Paulo Banchero good enough to have this team finish above 500? Because that's realistically what it's going to take. It's going to take the Magic finishing above 500 to make the playoffs in the East this season. That's what we've been seeing. That's the trend that we've seen in the playoffs now. This is where we are. You mean to tell me that the Orlando Magic are going to go from 22 wins to above 500? That's 22-60. And somehow this team is going to go from that far below 500 to above and make the playoffs. That seems like a very tall order. And Terrence Ross, I get where you are, but man, plus 1,800 to make the playoffs. Fun fact here for you is there's only one team in the East that has worse odds to make the playoffs, and that's the Pacers. The Pacers are plus 4,000 to make the playoffs. Not a very good, not the gap between the two is egregious, right? But when you've got one team and only one team that's able to make that is worse in making the playoffs than you, the odds are not in your favor. And I don't know if Terrence Ross realizes he might not even be on the team by the end of the season. He might not even make the team this year. He might get traded before the season even starts because he doesn't fit the young core that the Orlando Magic are going for. He is the elder statesman on this roster. Is that a bad thing? Not necessarily, but he doesn't fit any longer. So it's time to move him. So Terrence Ross, I love you, buddy. I enjoyed you in Toronto, enjoyed you in Orlando, but I definitely think you're probably mistaking that the Orlando Magic are going to make the playoffs this season. We know Paulo Banchero is good. How good do we know Paulo Banchero is? He is reportedly finalizing the signing of a shoe deal with the Jordan brand. So Paulo Banchero is going to join a very exclusive and a very elite list of athletes. That includes Chris Paul, Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum, Bam Adebayo, Zion Williamson, who hasn't also played Jonathan Isaac style, Bradley Beal, Russell Westbrook, used to be good, and Carmelo Anthony. That's not a bad lineup to join. I believe I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Blake Griffin was once also a Jordan Brand athlete. I think I could be totally wrong, but I believe that is correct. Nonetheless, Paulo Banchero, like, you don't just go to Jordan. Like, Jordan has to come to you. You can get deals with Nike or Adidas or Puma or even Fila's trying to make a comeback into the NBA. Like, you can get deals with these guys, right? But you don't just get a deal with Jordan. That's the realistic aspect of where we are right now. Is you don't get a deal with the Jordan brand. The Jordan brand is very exclusive and a very elite list of players that they selectively choose. That's the word that we'll use, is selectively choose. And it's also quite interesting that Paulo Banchero is the only rookie to ever get a deal with Jordan Brand. Think about that for a moment. The Rays dropped it. The Rays dropped again. They lost another game to the Orioles, but look, don't panic. That's going to be the theme of the remainder of the season, at least for the time being, is don't panic if you're a Tampa Bay Rays fan. Don't panic in Rays Nation. Yeah, we lost again to the Orioles, and we have seemed to be losing more than we've been winning since the All-Star break, and it's not a terrible thing, because they are still just below the second place wild card spot. They're only a half game out because the Mariners lost as well. But the reason we don't panic if we are Rays fans, the reason we do not panic is because they still have a 2.5 game lead over the Guardians. And the Rays are a much better team than the Cleveland Guardians. And then they're even better than all the teams lower than the Cleveland Guardians, because the Guardians have been holding off everybody else underneath them as well. So don't panic if you're a Rays fan. All you have to do is just be consistent. That has literally been the theme for this entire season thus far, is be consistent. And they haven't been consistent, and that's why they're in the position that they're in, which, like I said, is not necessarily a terrible thing, but it's not where you want to be. You want to be on a comfy ride, right? You want to be in that first wild card slot, not a half game out looking in. You don't want to be there. But they're still in a good position because they are a better team than the Mariners. The Mariners are just on a streak. Here's the realistic aspect of it, is the Mariners got hot, and that's why they are in the second wild card spot. But that streak is arguably over. Now, could they get hot again? Sure, they could get hot again. Does that mean that they will stay hot? No. But the Rays also have the opportunity to get hot, right? That's where we are right now, is the Rays have the opportunity to get hot and rattle off a couple of wins. Dude, you're a half game back. Don't panic. All you have to do is just win your next series. Oh, which, by the way, is against the Guardians. You win this series against the Guardians, you're in a hell of a lot better position as you start August. A hell of a lot better. Fans, Rays fans, we love you. We really do. Some of this fan base, we love you. Fans that are saying Kevin Cash has lost the team. Has he lost the team? Does he still have the team? Or does it not even matter? Does it not even matter that Kevin Cash either has the team or has lost the team? It's, to me, what we're looking at is we're looking at a manager that uses analytics more frequently than he uses his gut instinct, and his team knows this. So if I've got a manager who is using analytics more than he is talking to me, feeling me out, asking me how I feel, able to look and analyze at different aspects of my game as I'm playing, it's hard to develop a working relationship with that manager or a budding personal relationship with that manager. You can't have that personal connection if you're only using analytics. This is a real situation for the Rays, whether it's for better or for worse. If you're looking at the Rays team and saying, well, Kevin Cash lost the team. Did he really lose the team? Because he doesn't control the team. He uses the analytics. He uses the sabermetrics. That's the way that he manages. And has it worked for him? Sure. It has definitely worked for him. But the fact remains, he does not utilize the personal aspect of the game very often. Every now and then, sure, he does, where you go. And when he does, good things happen. So this could definitely be one of those, hey, he's a yes man. He's going to do what he's asked. He's going to fall in line and be a good little soldier. But it's hard to say that Kevin Cash has or doesn't have the team based on the way that he does manage and the way that we know that he manages, whether you like him or not. If you're a Kevin Cash truther, great. If you're a Kevin Cash hater, great. Both of but you have to be realistic. That's where it boils down to being taking the fan hat off for just a minute, being realistic and saying, if Kevin Cash has lost this team, it doesn't really matter because there's no personal connection there with the players.
That's a hot take, man.
This isn't even a hot take. This is
Is a reality?
This is because this is. If you go on any Facebook or any Twitter channels right now talking about the Rays, it is absolutely toxic in saying Kevin Cash has lost the team.
Oh, so it's something that we were kind of touching on like a month ago, and people thought we were crazy.
Right.
Yep. Oh, okay. Okay. I don't think he's lost. I don't think he's lost the team just yet because, I mean, obviously, look, reality is we have the most people on the IL and play is sloppy. Nobody's hitting anything. And, you're constantly waiting on reinforcements to come in and they're not coming in. And now you see teams like the Yankees who are just giving up 3 prospects for Andrew Benintendi, where you could have done the same exact thing.
Correct.
So, I think it just comes to the fact that, okay, what are we going to be doing at trade deadline? Like if they don't make, and the thing is, Danny, the deadline's what, next Tuesday per se?
Yes.
Yeah, the 2nd. So that's the deadline. Yep. So things are going to start to be moving like today and then throughout the weekend. And then, obviously Monday is really when it comes to crunch time when something's going to get done. Usually with the Rays, it's like a last minute deal that comes like Tuesday afternoon. Cause I think the deadline's like 4:59 or something like that. It's like 4:00 on Tuesday. Right. So usually something really doesn't brew for the Rays until, the 11th hour. So I think it depends on, what kind of moves they're going to be making. If they don't make any significant kind of moves to better this team, you're going to see the continued slide of this team.
I agree. I think, that's not what you want. You don't want to, but here's the reality of what I've been noticing with this team is they're only a half game out of the second wild card slot. So it's not time to panic. Right?
No, it's not. It's not time to panic at all. No, not at all.
Here's the realistic thing is they're 2.5 games above the Guardians.
Mm-hmm.
And they are a better team than the Guardians.
And they're playing the Guardians this weekend.
Correct. And the Guardians are much better than all of the teams lower than them. So the Rays are in an okay position, even if they are a half game outside looking into the playoffs.
I mean, this next round of games, especially at home, you got Cleveland for 3, and then you got Toronto coming into town for 2.
Right.
So this is an opportune time to, get back that, get back in the first two slots, because I mean you're playing Cleveland. I mean, it's a good thing that they're back at home. Home is usually we call this a safe place for the team. Usually you play better at home when you come back from a road trip, which is what they went 2-5.
Yeah.
So, it just kind of, I'm looking at the upcoming schedule. You got Cleveland coming into town, and then Toronto, and then of course, you got Detroit for 4, and then Milwaukee for 2. And this is the series that they had before.
So they're going to lose 6 to Detroit and Milwaukee.
Right. Yeah. So this is like this. Remember, this is the series that they had before where they didn't play up to the level of the teams that they were playing. They were playing.
Swept by the Reds.
Yeah. So it's all about, what I saw this past few games is just really sloppy play, swinging at everything. I mean, yesterday was kind of like the coup de grace where Josh Lowe got hit in the face with a fly ball because he couldn't find it in the sun. And that was kind of like it summed up that road trip,
Yeah.
And
hit him in the nuts. That would have really summed it up, though.
And the funny thing was, like, the most coverage the Rays have really gotten was yesterday because of the walk-off home run by Trey Mancini, which is in the Parker. And like I think that was the first and only time the Rays gotten featured on the Pat McAfee show was when Josh Lowe got hit in the face with a baseball. So it's one of these skids that we've seen before, and I think it's all about how they bounce back coming back home. You know what I mean? And
100%.
And these next 5 games, you have to at least go 4-1.
You have to.
You have to. You can't go 500. You can't go anything below the 500 mark. So if you lose tonight, okay, that's the one game you lose, and then you win the next 4, especially against Toronto, because you don't want to give them any more room.
Nope, you don't. Speaking of the trade deadline, the Rays are seeing their names out of the rumor mill less and less. We're not seeing their name pop up anymore. ESPN actually has an article on their ESPN Plus about where Wilson Contreras can land.
Mm-hmm.
And they talked about, at one point we thought that the Rays might have been front runners. And then when we started realizing that they really don't give a crap about the catcher position, we're going to kind of rule them out and say that he's probably going to go to Houston. And I can't say that that's an incorrect take, because if you want to look at the wins above replacement, they're kind of right on that aspect, man.
And this goes back to the whole they won't give up top prospects for anything. Like if the Yankees can like give up a few of their 3 of their prospects, because the Yankees don't give a F. They don't give a shit. Like they're all in. They're gonna go pick up the guys that they want. And I know they're still not done yet either, because their names have been attached to a couple other players that can help them out. Like Luis Castillo from the Reds. I know they're trying to pick up starting pitching, and they're willing to give up guys. Rays don't want to do that for some reason. They don't want to give up their top prospects. And that's why I tweeted out yesterday, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they make 0 moves, because they are content with the roster that they have. And in a league where there's no salary cap and where you can ultimately reload your farm system at any time, they don't do that. So that's why it wouldn't surprise me if they made 0 moves.
Well, the Rays franchise being content where they are is why the fan base is content where they are.
I don't know. I saw some people yesterday on social media groups, especially on Facebook and Twitter, where they're kind of, look, we're at because we're always where we're at. We're not making the significant moves where we need to move.
Yeah.
I mean, look, you can tell me I'm wrong, because they've tried to make moves before, but they're not making more significant moves.
Right.
Like you could have gotten Andrew Benintendi yesterday from the Royals. Like a team, the Royals were playing the Yankees, and they just said, "Hey, Andrew, we just need you to go across the field to the other dugout.
Here's a hot dog."
Yeah. Like, all you have to do is walk across, because you just got traded to the team we're playing today.
We'll have the bat boy move your stuff over. Everything's okay.
Yeah, I mean, as you see more players fall off the tracker of who's going to be traded, you're not going to see the Rays attached to them at all. Like I'm almost to the point where, like, I don't want them to go after Juan Soto, because you need more than just Juan Soto. You do.
Right. Which is, I mean, would it be nice for Juan Soto to be on the team? Sure. Of course. But
Yeah.
you're right.
100%,
You're 100% correct.
100%. But I would rather make them make 3 significant moves to help them out going along the way instead of just one. And I don't see them doing that. I maybe see them making one tiny little move where it's like a blip, like, oh, the Rays traded for this no-name player and 2 prospects, and they traded away somebody. It's like, how's that going to help you now?
Right.
Are you guys already throwing in the towel? Like, it's a frustration mode where I would say this to Rays fans, like temper your your expectations going into this weekend, like all the rumors and stuff that you hear, like temper them, because you're not going to have them attached to any of the big guys or the big dogs that you want to hear.
Right.
Like everybody that's available, they're not going to be attached to, because they're not going to make those moves.
I'm with you.
So
let me ask you, as we get to the latter half of the show, and you were joining us, a pleasant surprise on this hot take Friday.
It's been a weird week for me to be on the show, so it's I feel bad I'm letting the fans down. So it's been a weird
Do
week.
you have 3 hot takes coming into the NFL season, or do you want to just dissect mine?
I would love to dissect yours.
Okay, let's go. We're gonna fire it up. We got 15 minutes remaining on the show here. First hot take of mine heading into the season is that Julio Jones is going to have a bigger impact on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers than Antonio Brown did.
That's not a hot take. I think that's actually going to happen. That's not a hot take.
It's not a hot take for you, but it's a hot take for a lot of people, because Julio's always injured.
Listen. Okay. So I look at this as, you shouldn't expect Julio to play every single game. And I think that's what the Bucs don't want him to do anyways, because you would rather have him be healthy, the whole season, instead of trying to play him every single snap in every single game. Why would you do that? Because you're not that way you're not saving him for like the latter half of the season and then the playoffs. I would expect him to play less snaps than Gronk. Look, and this is what I envision too, Danny. Like they'll have Chris Godwin, and Mike Evans as their 1 and 2. I mean, Evans 1 and then Godwin 2 as almost like a rotation set.
Sure.
Okay, so that's your rotation set, the first couple of plays, and then you card out Jones, and then you card out Gage. So you have 2 sets of 1s and 2s right there. So you don't have to put them out there all the time. I mean, then you could put out Julio Jones in special packages where you can kind of maybe use him as a tight end.
Mm-hmm.
So I love the fact that they got him, because now you can be even more creative with your offense now with a true Hall of Famer and a number 1 wide receiver, where this guy can catch anything that Tom is going to throw him. You know what I mean? He's not getting thrown to by Matt Ryan. He's not getting thrown to by noodle arm Ryan Tannehill. He's getting thrown to by the GOAT himself,
right.
Tom Brady. So you're going to see such a unique, high-powered offense this year than you did last year.
And I think Julio Jones knows his role on this team. I think Antonio Brown was literally signed going, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, I'm better than these guys. And
I think also too, I think the recruitment that I think Brady and Light had when they called him up was like, look, this is what we envision of you coming into this offense. Like, this is what we want your role to be. And I'm sure Julio was like, sign me up. That's why he came over. Because I know yesterday in his press conferences after practice, where he had offers from Indianapolis, and then he had offers from, I think there was another team that offered him to a contract, and he just looked at the situation where, I don't really have to be the focal point of this offense. I'm here to just help contribute to get a ring.
And I think that's exactly where he is, because we saw that happen in Tennessee last season.
Yeah,
where Julio Jones was the number 1 guy, because there was a time where he was the only guy on offense. AJ Brown was out, Derrick Henry was out.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's what they were trying to have him do in Tennessee, was he was going to be that focal point. Like, they would have Julio as the number 1 and then AJ Brown as the number 2. And that didn't work out.
He's too old for that, unfortunately. Right. And that's not a slight on him. That's just Father Time gets everybody except Tom Brady.
Right.
For reference.
I mean, it's a warm take.
For reference, Rob Gronkowski, who played in just 12 games last season. And first of all, let's just dead the Julio Jones is often injured conversation, because we act like Rob Gronkowski has played more games and more snaps than Julio Jones, and he has not. In 11 seasons, Julio Jones has played 500 more offensive snaps than Rob Gronkowski. They've both been in the league for 11 years. I mean, cut and dry. Internet narratives are one thing, and facts are another thing.
I don't think Bucs fans remember too that Gronk was like injured for a few weeks too as well.
Right. So Gronk played 12 games last season. Here's the only difference, though, is Gronk played 76% of the snaps last season, where Julio Jones in 10 games played 58% of the snaps.
And a good thing
about of the snaps probably as wide receiver 1.
A good thing about Julio Jones is he doesn't have to block anybody.
Right.
All he has to do is catch the ball and run for the end zone. He doesn't have to block.
Just be a decoy.
Yeah, I was thinking about it yesterday too. I was like, man, he could be set up as a decoy as well. Like, there's so many, like, you could use him as a Swiss Army knife in this offense.
100%. And you have to respect him. That's the problem for opposing defenses, is you have to respect that you've got a future Hall of Famer in Julio Jones on one side, and then you've got a future Hall of Famer in Mike Evans on another side.
All right, let's go. We're going to hot take number 2.
Hot take number 2 is Carlton Davis is going to finish in the top 5 in interceptions this season.
Ooh.
Yes, sir. This has been his focal point the entire offseason.
I like that.
And he also happens to record the very first interception of training camp yesterday off a Logan Ryan deflection.
Okay. I like that.
And I really think that that's what is going to push him into the upper echelon of secondary players, of cornerbacks in this league. Is this season I hope that he cleans up the personal fouls, because we know he gets a lot of pass interference calls, but I honestly think that he has been so hell-bent on improving his interceptions and becoming more of a ball hawk that top 5 finish for Carlton Davis in interceptions this season.
I like that take, Danny. That was a good one. I like that.
Oh, I liked it.
And I know you talked about Ryan Jensen in the early part of the show, but everybody on Twitter saying the Super Bowl run is over, the season's over. Relax.
Go back to the beginning of this show. I gave you every freaking statistic that you could possibly get to know that if in fact, this is not a slight to Ryan Jensen, but if in fact they call up JC Tretter and say, hey, come down to Tampa Bay, JC Tretter has better grades, better stats all around the board than Ryan Jensen does. Ryan Jensen's not even the best blocker on the Buccaneers offensive line. And that's the realistic aspect of that. That's not my hot take. That's my fact of the day. It's true. Like, all that information is available.
And for everybody saying they should try and get Ali Marpet back. Like, Ali Marpet is like, he lost a ton of weight. He's not in any mode to get back to football anytime soon.
Right. And he's only played 139 snaps at center.
Yeah.
Shaq Mason, zero snaps his entire career at center. He's not going to fill in.
No.
My third hot take is going to take it up to the NFC North.
Okay.
DeAndre Swift is going to lead the NFC North in rushing yards.
Ooh.
And I will give
over Najee?
Yes.
Oh no, that's the AFC North.
Over Dalvin Cook,
over
David Montgomery, and over Aaron Jones. DeAndre Swift will lead the NFC North in rushing yards, because
you know what, Danny?
You're gonna agree.
I agree with that as well. Because I look at this, I look at that division. I'm looking at Green Bay. AJ Dillon has really kind of cut into a lot of Aaron Jones's snaps, because he's a beast. He's got like legs the size of tree trunks. Dalvin Cook usually gets hurt once or twice during the season as well. Yeah, man, I like that. I like that a lot.
And here's the thing, though, is you got to remember that the offense that we saw from the Lions last season was not indicative of what you're going to see this season.
Right.
3 of their starting offensive linemen went down with injuries for the entire season.
And I left out David Montgomery because the Bears offense is such a mess right now. You don't know what you're really going to get with the new coaching staff underneath.
Yeah, everybody, every piece of coaching personnel is new on that team now. So you don't know. It's complete uncertainty.
And plus I think they had that number 2 Komet, who is going to be kind of cutting into Montgomery's, snap reps as well. So, I mean, yeah, I like Swift's chances. I like that a lot. Yeah, man.
Maybe you should. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Like I said, for me, I'm all aboard the DeAndre Swift line because the Lions have a top 5 offensive line when healthy,
Mm-hmm.
and people forget that. And people forget that after they let go of Anthony Lynn, who's a good coordinator. Don't get me wrong, Anthony Lynn is a fantastic coach and he's a fantastic offensive mind. He just didn't fit the scheme and what Detroit was trying to do.
I mean, he's not biting kneecaps like Dan Campbell.
Right. I mean, he's like licking ankle. And I guess that sounds like I'm demeaning him.
You go from biting kneecaps to licking ankles?
I mean, he's looking at the kneecaps, but he wasn't biting them, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Do you agree with 2 of my 3 hot takes? I mean,
I like him. Well, the Swift thing is actually that could be a reality because especially in that division alone, and I'm looking at the upcoming season with everybody's, how their offense is going to change. And I looked, and especially with Green Bay, without Devontae Adams, you're going to see a different Green Bay. I mean, you hope to see a different Green Bay offense. And the way A.J. Dillon played last year, where I think it was in the playoffs where A.J. Dillon had more snaps than Aaron Jones. So that was kind of like, okay, look towards next year. Like A.J. Dillon is a top fantasy pickup in the later rounds, people.
Right.
And then, Dalvin Cook is as good as Dalvin Cook is. He just can't stay healthy on the field.
He's the NFC North version of Christian McCaffrey, unfortunately.
No, and you're totally right. Like I've always wanted to draft Dalvin Cook in fantasy, and when I got the chance, like he burned me in fantasy. It's like, I should have known because you're so injury prone. And he's from FSU, and I'm an FSU guy,
Right.
And just the Bears are just a mess. So yeah, Swift does have a chance to be that top guy in that division. I like it. I like it.
I was thinking about going a little further, but I wanted to just scratch the surface of the NFC North.
Okay.
Because I do think he's going to be better.
Actually, I have a hot take. I have one hot take. I tweeted out yesterday. I did my top 5 fantasy quarterbacks, and I did them in order. Tom Brady number 1, Josh Allen 2, Justin Herbert 3, Aaron Rodgers 4, Derek Carr at 5.
Okay.
I did not include Patty Mahomes in that.
And you know what? I'm okay with Patrick Mahomes not being in the top 5.
Mm-hmm.
The only person I feel like makes a solid argument, and this might be a hot take in itself, is Jalen Hurts. Because he was almost by far the number 1 fantasy quarterback last year with a trash offense.
He was hot garbage in reality, fantasy-wise. He was one of the top quarterbacks in the league.
Right.
So yeah, I would put Hurts like fringe top 5.
Yeah.
He's in the top 10 definitely, but yeah, he's definitely top 10, but he's fringe top 5. Like maybe number 6.
Yeah. Tom Brady being number 1, I mean, that should definitely he passes the ball too much to not be the number 1 quarterback. And I think that's realistically what it boils down to. And now you thought he passed the ball 719 times last season, and that was a lot. Wait till you see what happens this season. Now that the field is going to be significantly stretched.
What do you see Tom Brady going over 5,000 yards this season passing?
Yes.
Okay.
He's going to break Peyton Manning's record. And the extra game.
Shut up.
There were once 15 games. There were once 14. Shut up about it. We're at 17 now. All of your 16-game records are going to fall at some point now because we have 17 games. So get used to it because you're going to have the same douchebags that are crying 10 years from now going, but they don't have 16 games anymore. Doesn't matter. Absolutely does not freaking matter to me. This is a good show. This was a very solid statistic oriented show. So if you are curious about what the Buccaneers can do at center, go back and watch the beginning of this show. Maybe I'll put out a couple graphics. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll force you to tune in and watch the show. That's probably what I'm going to do. But they've got options. It's not the end of the world. And if you're one of those idiots that's saying the Super Bowl run is over, you are one of those idiots saying the Super Bowl run is over.
Oh, there were a few of them yesterday on Twitter, which I had to correct a couple of times.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to be fine.
Yes, we're going to be just fine.
Love Ryan Jensen to death. Never would slight any. Never slighting any players. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what team you are. Like when Jameis Winston blew out his knee last year, I wasn't cheering for that. You don't want players to get injured. You don't want that to happen. This is their life and their livelihood.
Do Bucks fans also don't remember that Jensen was contemplating retirement too?
Right.
So you don't think the Bucks had some contingency plan in place when they kind of found out, or the rumor was, hey, Jensen might be retiring? Of course they did.
Yep.
So the next man up is the next man up. Of course they're going to probably go out and try and get a veteran to be there for depth. So relax, people.
And that, you know what though? And that's the thing though, Evan, is you've got around $8 million in cap space now. After signing Julio Jones and finding out that they voided years on his contract for about a $2 million, just over $2 million cap hit for Julio. You've got $8 million. Sign JC Tretter, because even if Ryan Jensen is able to come back in the latter half of the season, let's say it's not a full ACL tear, because we don't know the actual, there's
no diagnosis yet.
Right. And we won't find out. I think the MRI is at noon today. So we won't find out until at least afternoon. JC Tretter is a solid player to have as a failsafe at center. If Ryan Jensen comes back and tweaks the knee, if he misses the entire season, JC Tretter is a very, very formidable option. And by the way, he was part of the best offensive line in football last season. I bid you adieu. Boy, that is going to wrap it up for us on this hot take Friday edition of Channelside in the Morning. Thank you to everybody who tuned in on the multiple platforms. Remember, our next show on Monday will only be on YouTube, and going forward, we will be exclusive to YouTube. So please make sure you follow the links on our website, follow the links that we tweet out every morning, hit that subscribe button, and join the movement, man.
Hit that little notification bell to get notifications when we have a new show.
Ding. We run competitive studies all the time, Evan, and we are not alike at Channelside Sports, baby. We are not alike. Make sure you join the movement. I said it yesterday. This time next year, this bandwagon is going to be absolutely full. We'll still be accepting applications, but it will be jam-packed, and you will be sardined on this bad boy. I can't wait. You're going to be just like that. Jam-packed, baby.
Like a bunch of hot dogs.
Just stay away from Joey Chestnuts.
Yes.
That's going to do it for us. I am Danny. That is Evan. Make sure you search for the Channelside Sports Network on all the social media platforms. Until